All right, hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to State Level Avionics. It's great to have you here. I've been a little bit quiet for the first half of the year, so we've actually been super busy with a ton of stuff, and we've got some continued exciting news to come over the summer and then in towards the end of the year. But we were actually in February at FS Anna, so that was really great. In March, we were up in Alaska with Chris and Oscar and the team. That was a ton of fun as well. And if you haven't seen Chris's new Virtual Fly Solo Pro simulator, definitely check it out. He's got the Solo Pro G1, which is the all-glass FAA AATD, Advanced Aviation Training Device. So that's Chris Palmer, Angle of Attack. Definitely check that out. So we were up there in Alaska, and then in May, May, we were at, we skipped out Sun and Fun in April, but then May, we actually did an all-new flight simulator room at JA Flight Center down in Chicago. So it's actually in Aurora, which is in Sugar Grove, Illinois, so just outside Chicago. We teamed up with Virtual Fly and we created an absolutely awesome flight sim studio, kind of lab type thing for them. We've got the on-top Duo in there, full motion simulator. Then we've got a Solo Pro A as well as Solo Pro D4. So the D4 is for the Diamond DA40. Solo Pro A is a steam gauge setup. So did some awesome collaborations there with Virtual Fly. We keep up the partnership with them, which is great. And you can actually see their YOKO right here. But want to talk about some custom panels that we've really been doing that I find that are different, that are unique, that you may find some interest in. These are kind of just a culmination of throughout the year. We finally decided to make a video and stitch some of these clips together. So we'll kind of keep it pretty quick. Not going to actually get into the actual simulator and the software and all that kind of stuff in the video. This is really more just the panel layout, the configuration, the components and stuff like that to kind of help give you guys a little bit of ideas. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and we'll get into it. All right, so this panel here, the ideation came from the SIMiONIC panel video that I did. I'll actually link that here on the screen. But that panel video, if you remember, was the SIMiONIC force feedback yoke, which actually still hasn't come out yet. So this customer said, hey, I want to be able to have a panel very much like this, the glass setup, the SIMiONIC G1000, SIMiONIC switch panel and things, but even SIMiONIC throttle and the compass too. But they want to be able to have a yoke that they could get right now. So the Virtual Fly YOKO was once again a great solution. If people want to have that best yoke experience, that Virtual Fly YOKO is definitely it. So just walking through this panel, SIMiONIC switch panel. They've got a key panel from a company out in Europe. They've got the FSX dual system here to use an actual GA headset with the simulator that plugs in through USB. Logitech standby gauges, SIMiONIC G1000. We did something really neat here with the SIMiONIC compass is we took our traditional compass mount and we actually made some holes in it, and then we were able to put the hardware through the holes and secure it. So it still is able to just slip right on from the back, as simple as that. So that was pretty awesome there. And then here's the pedestal. So the pedestal on this panel is quite unique here, and basically it just goes on just like so. And so when this is brought to the edge of the desk, the pedestal will sit on there, and got the flap lever, SIMiONIC throttle, and then we've got a trim wheel down here as well. So you can see that trim wheel. So we'd love if Virtual Fly went ahead and made a trim wheel. I think a pretty good product name for that could be something like the Trimo. I don't know. Let's leave a comment below if you guys think Virtual Fly should come out with a trim wheel. I think it'd be awesome. Yeah, they went with the SIMiONIC throttle here so we could actually fit the flap lever. That's why we did that there, and instead of going with a Virtual Fly VRNIO up there. But once again, that's why we did that. But we'd love to see a Trimo in there. I think that'd be a pretty cool name for a Virtual Fly component. But yeah, this was pretty straightforward panel. So SIMiONIC G1000 runs off the iPads, pretty straightforward. Connects over a wireless bridge to the actual simulator, so you don't have to go plugging in HDMI cables and that kind of stuff. So then we'll go ahead and we'll get into another video here, another clip of a different panel that we've done. So yeah, keep going. All right, so this panel here, this is a iteration of our Honeycomb Touch medium size panel. So this uses the 15-inch monitor cutouts. So they actually have identical 15-inch monitor cutouts, and then with the Honeycomb yoke and throttle, and then it uses the Knobster as well in the middle. Now what this customer's opted to do, they're going to go with a 15-inch touchscreen here on the left side, and these here are our 5-axis milled CNC mounts. But what we've done on the right side here is give them the option to put that 15-inch monitor in if they want on the right side, or they can run a whole suite of different RealSimGear avionics. So everything from the G5 to the GMA 350 audio panel. I think they got a GNS 530 and then a 430 here as well. And then we've also given them an additional modular plate, which they were actually back and forth on whether or not they'd go with the second modular plate. I figured out what they wanted to do. We're going to actually throw it in for the customer for free. He'll be a little surprised. So I figured, what the heck, why not? He's going to want it. Let's just do it now. So this is for 530, GMA 350, a 430, and then a GFC 500 autopilot. So what he can do, the customer, he can pop this other panel out, pop the new one in, and if he wants to fly with this setup, you can fly with that. So that's once again our modular plate, modular mounting system. And so that's something pretty easy that we can do there too. Okay, so this next panel is pretty comprehensive here. You can see we've got it pretty much fully populated except for the PropWash cutout. We didn't get that component from the customer. They were waiting on that. And then the YOKO will ship separately. Right here is going to be the pedestal with a V3RNIO throttle as well as a trim wheel. So this has got a 15-inch monitor. Over here on the left side, I think the customer made a really great recommendation. They've gone with a USB-A and a USB-C port right here. Very cool. Pause simulation button right here. Very neat. And then our RAM mount that comes with all of our panels. Once again, 15-inch monitor, 2 RealSimGear G5s. And then we've got the GNS 530 to GNS 430. We've got a switch panel here, very similar to the Logitech switch panel. And then we've got the flat lever here from Desktop Aviator as well. So this here is the GMA 350 and the GFC 500. So we've got the audio panel so you can bring up that COM 2, maybe catch that ATIS, be able to adjust that here. On the 430, you got COM 1, nav 1 on the 530. Additionally, with Air Manager and touching the screen, you'd be able to adjust some frequencies here with the Knobster too. So you've really got a lot of functionality. One additional thing that I mentioned earlier in the video was talking about modular plates. And so this is actually a customer where it has taken this section here and made it a modular plate. We actually bundled up his packaging here already, but this is his other modular plate that can go right on there. It's got a GTN 750, the 530, and a GFC 500 autopilot. So he can just pop that right in and out. And then he's got all of his other hardware here in his parts bag. So for his YOKO and other things. So he's got everything, hardware for the pedestal. So this panel turned out really great. Should be really full featured, really nice. And yeah, we'll show you the back of it real quick. So here, once again, you can now see the back of the panel. This is that USB connection, play pause button here. It's got just a couple of little pins. So I'm not sure if those pins end up converting to a USB header or if they connect somewhere else into a switch. Maybe it connects into the switch panel. I'm not actually sure. That'd be a good question. So cool button, but I don't know how it connects. The RealSimGear G5s each require an HDMI, each require a power, each require a USB. Once again, with the 530 and the 430, each require an HDMI, each a USB, each a power as well. So what I would probably recommend with this customer is they're going to put probably a power adapter here on the back of the monitor, and then also a pretty long USB hub. And then the 350 and the 500 both have a USB each. USB connection here on the switch panel. Somewhere on here. I'm not sure where it is. Somehow it must connect. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if, yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe there's USB on there. And then here, yeah, here's a micro USB for the switch panel, but I'm guessing there's a micro USB on there somewhere. So, yeah, so this is theirs. We got our controller here on the back to be able to control the LED lighting underneath. And then we got our monitor mounts as well. So those are our 5-axis CNC milled monitor mounts. So this panel should be great. We're going to ship it off to the customer fully assembled, and they should be pretty stoked to get it and pumped to see it up and running. Okay, here's another panel example. So this here is the panel I was talking about that connects with the, I believe it was a Next Level Racing, certain cockpit. I'll put it in the text. I can't remember. They got a lot of different cockpits. They got some out of like 8020. They got some GT cockpits, the GT Pro. They got GT Track, I think, on wheels. But basically, there was this base plate here, and the base plate was actually super narrow. It wasn't a very deep base plate that we're actually used to seeing with a lot of these cockpit mounting solutions. It was very, very narrow. So it actually didn't give us a lot of material to drive for a lot of rigidity in the panel. So for example, half the pedestal was going to be hanging off the side here, and we needed to be able to strengthen that whole piece so it doesn't get kind of sloppy and everything else. So they sent us the panel here, the base plate to their cockpit. And then what we did is we built up the panel. And once again, just so you kind of visualize here, 15-inch monitor, Knobster, RealSimGear GMA 350, RealSimGear GNS 430, RealSimGear GFC 500 Autopilot, RealSimGear switch panel down here, and then the RealSimGear GTN 750. Comes with our RAM mount that comes with all of our panels, as well as our under panel LED lighting. Now, this also is compatible with the YOKO, and then on pedestal is going to be trim wheel and the V3RNIO throttle. Now, as I mentioned, the YOKO, it's a big yoke, it's a heavy yoke. It's got a lot of flex when you actually pull back. I mean, it's relatively tight from a mechanical kind of linearity perspective. So if you pull back with just this very small amount of surface area of the plate, everything's going to flex. It's going to flex back, and it's really not going to be a great experience. So what we had to do is we had to weld everything. And so that's exactly what we did. So when you actually look at what we've done here is we've taken the plate, and here it is, and it'll mount with these screws in the side. There's some nuts that come with the GT cockpit. And then there is, what we've done is we've added in a lot of chamfered angle iron here and here. And that's just giving a ton of rigidity. It's a really cost-effective solution. It worked really well. And this panel basically has no flex to it when that YOKO is going to be mounted. So it's going to mount from underneath there. And this should be a really, really good solution given the incredibly small footprint of the plate that we had. Other panels, we've actually completely re-engineered the plate, rebuilt the plate from the ground up. And so that's always something that we can do. However, this plate was a little bit different because it had a lot of these side profiles. And getting that all dialed in would have just been a ton of more work and everything. So this really just made the most amount of sense. It was cost effective for the customer. They didn't need to keep the plate for anything else, like a steering wheel, and actually they could just buy another plate if they wanted to be able to swap it in and out. So that's what we ended up doing here with this panel. It turned out great, and yeah, overall good solution, simple solution for the customer, and he should be pretty happy. So we're talking about this custom Citation Mustang panel today, and for those of you who don't know, we actually have 3 different tiers of custom panels. We have custom basic, custom intermediate, and custom advanced. And what the differentiation between each of those are is really around, I would call the time, the energy, the manufacturing process, the differences between all those different tiers, right? Custom basic is kind of, I would say, custom panel, our typical look and feel from either a Honeycomb yoke and throttle or a YOKO yoke and throttle on the pedestal, but maybe moving around the actual pieces within the panel itself, right? Maybe moving around the Avionics themselves, the components, the monitors, or the actual virtual fly hardware, the RealSimGear hardware, or whatever hardware you have actually. And that's really what custom basic is. It's really more of a layout exercise. Custom intermediate is kind of between obviously basic and advanced, which this panel here is an example of a custom advanced panel. But custom intermediate is really kind of that balance between the two, where it's not all the way to a full-blown completely custom setup, but there is some different design language, intricacy involved, and things like that. When we start to get into the custom advanced pricing, that's really where we start to have all metal construction that is tied to cockpit, I'll call cockpit setups with the seats and everything like that. And so there's like the Next Level Racing, RealSim chassis, all those different types of chassis, and where we're actually welding the base plate or either recreating the base plate to mount to the cockpit and structurally welding it, structurally milling it, match drilling it, all that different stuff, repowder coating things. That's really where it gets into custom advanced. So once again, this is an example of a custom advanced panel. The unique thing here is it doesn't actually look like our normal panels that we normally make, right? It doesn't have a glare shield. It will have a glare shield, but it's not the type of glare shield that we traditionally make. It doesn't have a yoke cutout for a Honeycomb or a YOKO yoke like it normally has. You know, it's not going to sit on a tabletop design. It's going to be in an all-enclosed cockpit, a very custom thing. So the customer reached out to us here, an incredible customer, by the way, awesome to work with. And he already had the design language sort of in his head, right? He actually had everything prepared in CAD, done in native CAD, in vector format, everything. So we could actually import it into our CAD software, revalidate all the dimensions, and all the assembly was there, right? So then we could break out the, I'll call it bomb explosion of all the individual components so we could get down to our cut diagrams really, really fast. So that actually made it really, really efficient for us to be able to make this. And the customer is very obviously strong in engineering as well, just like our engineering team. And so when we think about our engineering team at State Level Avionics, a lot of you have maybe been able to have the opportunity to meet Ryan. So Ryan is an awesome part, an integral part of State Level Avionics. And so Ryan and I, we do a lot of the manufacturing of these panels, but Ryan is really the brains behind it, right? And he's doing a ton of the manufacturing, a ton of the design, a ton of the CAD. And so if we have panels that are really, really intricate, you'll have the opportunity to work with Ryan, which is really cool. And you always bring, really great solutions to the table. And so Ryan basically got this, and we love challenges like this because it's different, it's something fun, it's really forward looking. And this panel, as you can see, I mean, it's got entire side gusseting. It's got, and there were already holes in there to take out weight, right? Just really good things around the design to make it very structurally robust, but then also really, I'll call it, manageable from a weight perspective and things like that. So, tons of different cutouts here. Some of this hardware is going to be Aviatek hardware in here. So we're hoping that we can get some actually pictures of this, videos of this thing actually populated, actually up and running. But the detail that was required on this was incredibly important. And I'll talk about that specifically when we talk about the backside and how some of these components all fit together. But if it wasn't as specific as the customer needed, they actually wouldn't mount into the customer's cockpit. And so that's a huge problem. So this panel required really, really tight accuracy. And how we achieve that really tight accuracy is through actually making jigs, making fixtures that are all, I would say, made with CNC mills down to the thousandth of a millimeter. Like literally, like it is that precise. And so that's how we can know we're getting dimensions correctly, it's fixtured correctly, it's manufactured correctly, and it's done exactly as somebody sees it in an AutoCAD model. And so now when we look at the backside here, we can see, all this stuff is down to, Darrow measurements, everything. But when we put this back panel right on here, you'll be able to see how important all these holes, for example, lining up, right? So they all line up exactly perfect. And we can do that because we made the fixtures to be able to ensure that all those holes are there. You look at these two bars right here. These are the main mounting bars to the customer's actually cockpit setup. If these holes aren't, actually these here, aren't 310 millimeters on center, it's not mounting into his cockpit. And this entire thing is pretty much trash. So we can't afford to do that. And the customer can't afford to get a panel and have that happen to them. And so that is why making this perfect is just exactly what we do, right? It's the engineering foundation. It's the engineering DNA in what State Level Avionics is. So, this is right on the money, 310 millimeter right there. If it was 313, 314, guess what? It's not fitting in this overall cockpit. So, this is the back side. You've seen the front side. It's awesome. It's a cool panel. There's going to be a glare shield on top. It's not going to be the glare shield that we traditionally do, but there will be a glare shield on top. That's going to be powder coated and everything as well. And so it's just going to go together really, really well. I'm pumped to see it populated with Avionics, and I'm pumped to see it powered on. I'm pumped to see maybe a video or two of it. So hopefully we'll get those in this video also. But it turned out really good. We're all about doing custom panels, kind of taking what you have, what's available in the marketplace today, whether it's Aviatek, RealSimGear, Virtual Fly, whatever hardware is available today, taking those off-the-shelf components, putting them into your panel, and really making something that is very much your own. And that allows you to help stay proficient in the comfort of your own home, and it also helps to be able to just have a ton of fun in the simulator as well. So we're all about aviation. We're having fun with it. Hope you guys are having fun. If you need anything on the custom route, let us know. We're happy to take care of you. And once again, we'll catch you later. Thanks for tuning in on this one. Stay level.